Hi guys, welcome to AI Sprint number 11. So the topic that we are going to explore today is voice AI, right? It's one of the fastest growing subcategory or topic per se in the AI space itself. Don't have very have not seen folks speak about a lot, as Pushpal rightly called out, right? Most of the folks would have tried it, didn't get good output, and don't have a very high clarity on the outcome per se or a high quality outcome per se. So we have Pushpal from DevX team. He's going to help us explore this area. And I think the team has done some fantastic work with couple of on a couple of case studies on their side. So yeah, over to you, Pushpal.
Thanks, Urmit.
And
Thanks,
thanks
Urmit.
for doing this as well. Yeah.
No, thanks for setting this up. Hi, everyone. Very good to meet. So I'll maybe set some context. I think which is what we were just discussing, right? So with voice, there is this issue of the internet memory that has happened, right? When they say what is the founder's age, we still say it's 19 because that's when they started the company and that's what you read on the internet. But 5 years have passed since, right? And I think with voice AI, something similar has happened when. When in 2024 it all began, this was a space which was largely still getting developed, right? And people gave it a shot then and weren't very patient with it. But the improvement in quality and improvement in overall results that we've seen in the especially in the last 6 months is tremendous. And so the conversation today is more voice AI 101. So if you already are working with voice AI and have a technical point of view, probably not for you. But if you're someone who is still figuring out how to try, where to try, what does this all mean? So you are probably the right audience for this. What we'll try to do is we'll try to go into some very minute basic details into the technicalities of how voice AI works. We'll show you a couple of demos, a couple of case studies on what we've seen work so far. And then hopefully if you guys have questions, we can take it. And I don't think we'll need the full hour and a half, but yeah, I'll try to keep it as quick as possible. Yeah. So as to not bore you. Yeah, I think I'll get started. So why we are in this room? The idea is that we need to recalibrate on the technology. I think this space has moved faster than most spaces. And I'll tell you why this is very important, right? So what happens is that in 2024, when you were using chat gpt for the first time or claude for the first time, if you were asking it, give me a rhyming essay or rhyming poetry, and it was creating a half broken rhyming poetry, you were still like, oh wow, this is so new, this is magic, right? Because you're not used to anything creating content or writing text on its own. But when you were talking to a voice agent, you were just getting frustrated. Like you get on a call and someone is taking seconds to get back to you. So the general customer experience expectation out of voice has always been very high because that's how we as humans transact with people or technologies or other human beings around us, right? So the way it would work is that up until the latency is beyond a certain point, you will always find voice AI frustrating. And right after it goes below a certain point, it becomes too human, and that's when you see a J curve adoption. And I think we are currently in voice AI in the middle of that J curve adoption, and we'll see through sample cases and case studies on why, right? So firstly, we have to recalibrate on what voice AI is today, not what it was. We have to map it to our PNL. So you can use voice AI and AI in general as more of a PNL statement for a line of business rather than a technology investment that you make, right? And then hopefully we can have you leave with 2 to 3 case studies once you get out of this conversation, right? And it's good to see that there are a lot of D2C brands in India that have already started adopting. They're already seeing very good reduction in RTO, right? And in general, as a industry or as a country, we've started seeing good adoption of voice AI across the board in the last 6 months or so, especially after regional languages have started getting their value in the entire voice AI ecosystem. So we'll read more about that, right? So anyway, so point is that today we want you to maybe give your better point of view on where voice AI is today, not where it was a couple of years back. Help you maybe figure out a couple of use cases, and if we do that and get you excited enough to try this out, this will be a good conversation, right? So I'll directly get into what is it. So there are generally under the hood, there are five things that happen with voice AI, right? One first is VAD. VAD is whenever you are talking to an agent, right? If you speak something, it needs to detect that someone is speaking, right? So that's like voice activity detection. This takes very small time because as soon as there is some trigger, some voice, it figures out someone is talking, right? Then whatever you are talking, it will take that speech and convert it into text. So that's STT, right? Now this is very easy to do because converting speech into text is just getting words and putting text to it. When I convert speech into text, I don't have to worry about was this person angry, was this person happy. I'm just listening to words and writing text against it, right? So that's STT, the easy part of voice AI, right? Third is turn detection. Turn detection basically is this the right time to start speaking? So the AI needs to know that okay, the other person has put their point across or is done with their point, and so now I need to start talking, right? Fourth is the brain, which is once everything that the person was talking has been converted into text. Say for example, the person was asking where is my order. Now the LLM or the brain needs to go figure out where the order is, create an answer for that, and then give that back to the customer as speech. So that is where text to speech comes in. LLM is a solved problem. It's like what you already use Claude. Speech to text, very simple. Turn detection, getting there. Text to speech is where the real difficulty lies today, right? Because in text to speech, you have to give emotion to text. So if the answer to where is my order is your order is right here, we want the agent to have an exclamation or an excitement at right here. Building that capability is the toughest part in voice AI today, which a lot of players are trying to do, right? And this is the most rudimentary flow per se. So you are taking speech, observing speech, converting it into text, then converting text, then figuring out the answer based on text and converting it back to speech. So pretty rudimentary. Now there are a lot of models where there is speech to speech also possible, so you don't have to convert to text. Yeah, so you don't have to convert to text at all, right? And that will have even better latency because the entire part in the middle goes away. You're directly training models on speech. All of those are newer things that are happening, still too expensive for us to go live with. So we'll keep it to what is practical today, right? And just FYI, so this timing here is milliseconds, and this is how much generally each step takes in terms of time. And the target is that so ideally, if it is under 500 seconds, it's pure human-like, right? So I mean, if you get all of this under 500 seconds, you are going to be able to talk like you talk with any other human. Currently, it is hovering around that range, so which is why you started seeing a lot of applications in this space. Now, so overall, from a technology standpoint, there are models and there are platforms. So I'll just quickly differentiate what is the difference between them. So you would have heard about Servam, you would have heard about smallest AI, right? So these are voice AI models. So these are basically models that help you convert speech to text or text to speech, right? And their job is just that. I'll give them speech as an input, they'll give me text as an output, or I'll give them text as an input and they'll give me speech as an output. So their job is to take an input, give an output. Just like when you give LLM a Claude text, it gives you text back, right? So it's trained on that data. So these are voice trained models. And then there are platforms. Platforms are like in India, there is Bolna, there is globally, there is Vapi. So these are all platforms where you can connect with different models. So by that, what I mean is that I want to create a voice model, a voice AI agent, which listens to, say, for example, a call from my customer asking and responds to that. So in that case, what will happen is that the platform will have models underneath. So I can create a agent. I can connect for speech to text with smallest, for example, right? And then I can have an LLM again beneath that platform. It could be a GPT LLM, and then again I'll have the text to speech part for some other model, say it's Servam. So the platform's job is to create agents and it abstracts the layer of model underneath it, right? Now this is one way to do it, right? So when you want to do it more technically, you want to have different APIs and want to sort of get this right to the last millisecond and want to be very precise, you go through all of this technical route. Otherwise, I'm sure you are using CRMs today. I'm sure those CRMs have come up with their own voice models. So you can very well go that route. I mean, that's very simple. And especially to begin with, you should start leveraging voice agents from existing products that you use, right? I know in India, for example, players like Lime Chat, ByteSpeed, they've come up with their own, who are good CRM players and have worked with a lot of D2C brands. They've come up with their own voice model. So you can voice agents, right? So I'm sure they also use similar models like Servam, smallest in the backend. They're not training their own models, but they're building agents on top of it. And I think you can directly use those as well instead of having to do all of this. Yeah.
So one quick question, Pushpal, in your experience, how many folks in the D2C or say consumer industry would have started using the this models per se, be it on top of the Lime Chat or other platforms versus something like Servam as well directly? If the folks who the out of the folks who would not have started, any reason for them, any reason for the churn or the attrition as well?
Yeah, sure. So good question. So I think, to be fair, I think most brands have tried voice AI. Not a lot of them have sustained because everyone tried it 6 months back when it was, at that time, the marketing around voice AI was more. Today, the value around voice AI is much better. So, like I said, right? So people have internet memory. It was what it was 6 months back. It was not up to the mark, and maybe a lot of people tried then and are not continuing to try now, is what I see, because the impression is still 6 months old. And second, I think most D2C brands, because D2C brands are not expected to have a very strong technical point of view, right? They should use platforms at least up till a certain scale, right? You don't need to connect separately with smallest, separately with Servam to sort of build your.
Hi, Bhageshri, can you just check with Pushpal? He's frozen for me.
Yeah, he's frozen for all of us, Surman.
Sorry, it's just the electricity is a problem today. So, yeah. So where I was going with this is that a lot of brands have tried it on platforms, and I don't think, because D2C brands are not expected to have their own technical point of view, I don't think people are going to, individually to Servam, individually to smallest, and building their own custom agents. They are looking for platforms. It's only when you scale beyond a certain point, the use case, then you want to optimize for every millisecond. Because what I believe is, as soon as brands start seeing incremental benefit coming out of this, right, or rather exponential benefits coming out of it in some use cases, they will then want to optimize it, then want to invest in it. So it's just like you start with a very simple theme based Shopify store when you start your D2C journey, right? And then as you grow, you have your ERPs and you have your CRMs and you have the entire stack behind it. So currently, because the adoption is not widespread, it will take some time. I think that's how we see it, right? I hope the screen is still visible.
Yes, yes.
Got it. And so, which is what brings me to the point of that why are we doing this now? Why do we think this is a great idea currently? And that's because the latency has gone. Like in 2023, the latency was 3500 milliseconds, and it is down to almost 500 to 700 milliseconds today. So it's like 7x faster. So if your point of view around voice AI was here in 24 or 25, we've gone significantly better as an industry since then, right? This is like a reminder on why we should do it. Another thing is, now agents have learned interruption handling. So earlier there were no protocols or frameworks on when should the voice agent start speaking for themselves, right? Now there are strong or when should the agent start speaking for themselves. Now what we've seen is there are enough protocols in the market that help agent give the trigger saying, okay, now you can talk, right? So in fact, there are reverse interruptions also. Now, to make it even more human-like, there are protocols that allow agents to interrupt what the human is saying and make their own point if they think that the human is repeating, right? And like I said, we'll see some case studies or some demos as we go forward from here. Then and commercially, yeah, I mean, look, earlier, if someone is off for 500 millisecond and they're trying to sell you and not saying something interesting, you will effectively drop off, right now I'm saying something interesting, so even though the light went off, you still stayed on the call. But otherwise, if someone is not speaking something that's valuable to you, generally, or trying, especially if they're trying to sell you something, you will in all probabilities drop off if there is a dead silence for a couple of seconds. And Finally, and this is very important for brands that are scaling, especially beyond tier 2 and tier 3. Personally, my opinion is that the value for voice AI is going to be maximum in tier 2 and tier 3 part of tier 2, tier 3 plus plus part of India. If you're talking about customer experience, if you're trying to solve customer experience, try to, and if you want to know why, try to write a sentence in Hindi on a keyboard. It's super difficult, right? Now imagine all those users who don't know how to use English, right? And you've been trying to sell them through WhatsApp. And you've been sending them abundant cart messages on WhatsApp in English in a language that they don't understand. Right? It's a waste of lot of WhatsApp money, and also not very user friendly. So I think for them this is going to be a major unlock, and we are already seeing some early case studies with this. Right? So I think the best proxy to understand tier 3 plus users has always been Meesho, on how Meesho is building customer experiences. And Meesho started their own voice agent for discovery. It's called Vani on their app, right? They already have like more than 1.5 million monthly active users actively using Vani, and they're using it for discovery, where tier 3, tier 4 households, they're going on Meesho app, clicking on the voice agent saying, and they're able to solve for it, which is incredible, right? And so everywhere, every time you are catering to a user who would much rather have their experience in a more their vernacular languages, I think creates a very very strong sort of a use case there. So yeah, I think a lot of Indian rural users and a lot of new internet users, 1 in 3 internet queries is typed now. And even within tier 1, if you'd see, there is, I don't know if people on this call use Whisper Flow. The product is doing incredibly well in India, and it's doing incredibly well in tier 1, tier 2 cities with the best folks who are super high on startups, right? And people who are tech savvy. So people realize voice is the natural way to interact, and so there also the adoption is crazy, right? I'll maybe talk through a case study, right? So we created this is the most basic agent and everyone should create it. So we took a case study for this. It's a mattress brand that we work with, right? And what we did is that it's simple. As soon as you receive a COD order on Shopify, there is a call that gets queued in 30 minutes, right? And assuming it's calling hours, you don't get a call at 12 o'clock in the night if you place it at 11:30. But in calling hours, it gives you a call in 30 minutes and basically confirms whether you want it fulfilled, right? And after receiving confirmation, they've seen that 80% of COD orders are reached within the first hour, and there's been a 33% reduction in their RTO, which is incredible. And these have been engaging calls, right? So let me, maybe, I don't know if this.
Hello, this is Raj. Am I speaking with जी आपने एक स्मार्ट ऑर्थो मैट्रेस और प्राइस 15,999 कैश ऑन डिलीवरी है तो प्रोडक्ट डिलीवरी एड्रेस है जी आपका डिलीवरी एड्रेस है 12 मेन रोड अंधेरी वेस्ट और ये कब तक डिलीवर हो जाए डिलीवरी ट्यूसडे को सुबह 10 से 1 बजे कंफर्म कर जी आपका ऑर्डर
I think and these are use cases where voice AI is very very good because it's a very simple use case. Yes, no, do you want your order to be delivered or not, right? And if the customer asks, you are only supposed to give them their data, so the underlying knowledge base is limited, the script is very sharp, right? If you would have asked the voice agent who's the prime minister of India, the voice agent would have said, look, I can only help you with COD order confirmation, that's my job, so can we stick to it, right? And so if you give it such a sharp and a simple script, it really does well. It was almost human like, right, this recording. And this is, by the way, production recording, not something. It almost felt like two people are talking within our team and we've recorded the call. So this is pure human like conversation. And yeah, so good use case, especially if you have a high AOV product, because for you, delivery and high AOV and high expense to deliver a product. So if you're a mattress brand, you will have to spend a lot of money to attempt a delivery and then get it cancelled, right? So very good use case to generally solve for. And how did we do it, right? It's very important to understand that process as also. So we use this model called 11 Labs. I think everyone would have heard about it here. Best in class in the world, right? They do speech to text. Then we use GPT as the LLM, and then we use them only for text to speech. And our general belief is that if you want to try a use case, just don't worry about the cost on day zero, right? We'll worry about cost if the use case works. And try it out, right? See what it costs. And then we tried this and it cost the cost came around 11 minutes, but the value was very good. Like, we realized this is helpful, so let's scale this. So we decided to scale it, and then we said, okay, to scale, let's bring the cost down. So we used Saras, which is a model by Servam. We used LLM, and this is a basic LLM. You don't need fancy LLMs to do this, right? And third is there's a lightning model by Smallest, so we use that, and this brought our cost down to almost 3.5 rupees per minute. Again, this is all in, right? So you are including telephony, which is your carrier fee that you will be paying to your telephony carrier as well. So with 3.5, this becomes mathematically also very, very good quality. And interesting thing is that the quality also goes up, because the models that are in India are trained in Indian languages. So it's as soon as you use those models, the quality of tone, the overall accent, it comes out to be much better, because these are models trained in Indian languages than international brands, right? So if it were a pure English to English transact or conversation, I think 11 Labs would have nailed it. But because there is Hindi involved or other vernacular languages involved, I think Sarvam, Smallest, these guys do a fantastic job. Right. Another case study, and this is for a FMCG customer, right? So what they do is, you know how in FMCG there are distributors who go to Kiranas and they ask them to give orders. Hi Raj, I'll come to your question. So how there are in distributors, how distributors go to Kiranas, they take their orders, then punch it back to the main parent company, right? So we did it for a customer. This is again, and we created a multi-agent network. So there is one agent that does, if this is a technical query, they'll answer it. If it's an order status query, there is another agent. If there is new distribution interest, there is another agent, right? We can go through 2 minutes 35 seconds of this, right? Maybe I'll cut it short in 35 seconds, but it would be nice to hear it out.
नमस्कार,
हेलो
क्या डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर संजारी सेल्स कॉर्पोरेशन के सेल्समैन का ऑर्डर नहीं? आज आपका ऑर्डर मैं
Not able to hear this, Pushpal. You are on mute. Can you play this again?
भैया, आपके डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर संजारी सेल्स कॉर्पोरेशन के सेल्समैन का ऑर्डर नहीं, ऑर्डर में न्यूट्रिशन से बूस्ट, रेड लेबल या हेल्प पड़ा भैया जी। आज न्यूट्रिशन में बूस्ट पे 7%, रेड लेबल पे 4% और हेलमेंस मेयोनेज पे 5% ऑफ पर पीस में भैया जी। कैटेगरी में कोई प्रॉब्लम, क्लीनिंग में भी सिर्फ सर्फ एक्सेल कंफर्ट।
So you get the idea, right? And interesting to note here is that there is a lot that happened in the call. The person was talking, the Kirana person also cut the AI agent in between a couple of times, right? So it switched context. The AI agent went with a script saying, I'll first sell them Boost and all of those products. I'll then sell them some other category. But then the person was not interested in the first category that they were selling. So they switched context and moved to the next category. So a lot happened behind the scenes, but it still continued to keep its composure. When we'll share these slides across with you, where you will be able to obviously check this out, right? And there's a lot that goes in choosing the LLM. I wouldn't recommend anyone who's just starting out to go this route where you are figuring out LLMs and you're figuring out a bunch of these other things. If you're just starting out, use an existing provider who takes care of all of this. Only when you scale, you start thinking about these complex issues, right? Yeah. And just to close this out, right, from a quality standpoint, there is no clear definition of good speed. So for a lot of people, the recording that I just showed you, it feels robotic. For other people, it doesn't feel robotic. It feels natural. It depends on who the person is. But the idea is, see if it sounds natural to you. Ensure that does the agent, for example, if I'm stressing on a certain point, is the agent also doing that? If they speak all words in the same tone, it will feel more robotic. We also have to ensure general linguistic correctness. So accents is a big play. Pronunciation is a big play. Ensure it is talking like your brand. If your brand has a soft voice, if your brand has a more natural or a certain voice in how you want to portray it, it needs to do that. And finally, ensure that people like listening to what they are saying, right? So again, what happens is that when you use existing platforms, they give you options that your voice could be a male voice, a female voice, a child, male or female mostly, right? And these are different options of voices. So when you pick your voice, you have to ensure that you select through all of this and you pick it, right? And these are just examples of models that you can run through. Typically, once you go live with this, you will want to ask these questions like how many calls, what is the connect rate, how many calls are getting completed, right? And if it's a support call, did it need a human handoff or not? What was the latency like? Did it move the business metric or not? So these are some metrics that you can look for. Now I think to the more interesting part of the presentation, which is when we went about this in the last 6 months or so, what did we learn, and what broke and what did we learn, right? Generally, so earlier what happened is latency was too slow, right? I mean, there was a lot of latency. I'll share examples, right? This was the latency before.
हेलो, मैं जयेश फ्लेमिंगो ट्रैवल से पैकेजेस गोवा एक्चुअली बहुत ही अमेजिंग चॉइस है बीचेस और
You get the idea. There was a lot of
हेलो मैं जयेश फ्लेमिंगो ट्रैवल से हाउ कैन आई हेल्प यू टुडे
tour packages they
गोवा इज अ पॉपुलर डेस्टिनेशन आर यू लुकिंग फॉर एडवेंचर एक्टिविटीज और मोर ऑफ अ बीच रिलैक्सेशन ट्रिप
साउथ गोवा में पैकेज बता
एक सेकेंड साउथ गोवा में फोर्ट्स के लिए हमारा 3 day गोवा हेरिटेज
So very some nuances there, right? They asked for tours where even if you ask a human, okay, give me 4 packages to go to for South Goa, they will have to go through their guidebook and give you those packages. And generally the way human would respond is 1 second, I'll get back, right? That is what the agent did. We added those fillers so that the agents also sound as human like as possible, right? So we knew that the LLM query will take a second, so for the agent, so we added these fillers, which makes it much more human like before, right? So one thing that has changed is obviously this latency and our ability to make it sound more human like. Second is the voice. Earlier the voice was extremely robotic like we saw, and now it's much more like a human talking. Third is longer conversation. So this is important to understand that in voice agents, your cost does not increase linearly. So if the cost per minute of a voice agent is 3 rupees, the cost for 2 minutes will not be 6 rupees. It will be actually more. It will be 7, 8, because every time you listen to voice, it is getting converted into context. So the longer the conversation, the more the context, and the more the context, you give all of it to an LLM, and the LLM responds. So your tokens increase. So your cost of the call keeps going up. So you're not going to have a great. It is not going to be a great idea to use voice agents where you're expecting a 2 minute, 3 minute conversation. This is ideal if the conversation is going to be more transactional, between 45 seconds to say 60 seconds or 90 seconds at best. So that is another learning that we've had, right? I think then language switching was a big thing, right? So what we realized is that if you're not able to crack language in voice, then all of it is for nothing. Because, and that's what we realized when early on, when we were using international models like 11 Labs, while they were doing great at latency, they were not very clear on Indian language. So the pronunciation was not coming out as well, and the accent was not good. I'll give examples maybe. We'll just check a couple of these cases.
हेलो मैं विजय स्टे विस्ता से हाउ कैन आई हेल्प यू टुडे
मेरा 15th अगस्त का जो उसका चेकिंग टाइम मुझे
थैंक यू फॉर रीचिंग आउट फॉर योर विला स्टे ऑन August 15th the check-in
So basically, and we just took Stay Vista as an example because, this is not real data, right? And so it asked the question in English, and then the response was in Hindi, but it again responded back in English. But here's how natural conversations look like.
मेरा नाम स्मिथ है और मैं ब्लू होम्स बुक किया
नमस्ते स्मिथ ब्लू होम्स के लिए चेक इन टाइम 2 o'clock है
એટલે અને બીજું સ્પીકર્સ ના સાઉન્ડ સિસ્ટમ ને અને
સ્મિથ બ્લુ હોમ્સ માં સાઉન્ડ સિસ્ટમ અવેલેબલ છે રાત્રે 10 o'clock પછી વોલ્યુમ લો शेफ अवेलेबल છે
That has 2 learnings. Gujaratis always talk about food, and the second is that the language switch was almost immediate, and it maintained accent at least to a large part of it, right? So that is very, and that is, I think, what is driving maximum value in all of these cases. Finally, hallucination. Is it giving the wrong answers? With LLMs getting better, I think that has anyway improved, right? Feel free to stop me if there is anything specific you would want me to double click on. Like I said, this is very high level and basic, so feel free to sort of have a deeper conversation on any of these slides. And
We had a question from Raja, but I've anyway asked the folks to please post the questions in the chat. We'll take them up at the end of the presentation. And I can definitely vouch for the Gujarati discussion as well, that it was pretty apt.
makes sense. Super. And so what we apart from this, what we've seen in voice AI is that you have to pick, right? You're not going to get everything right. So do you want low latency? Do you want low cost? Do you want more languages? Do you want more context, right? You are not going to get everything. If you are going to And honestly, when you speak to a human as well, you don't get in everything, right? So for example, today if you talk to a travel agency and you ask them some random question like, give me the best plan for Estonia for 5 nights 6 days, they're going to take their time. They're going to say, can I put you on hold for 2 minutes? Because that's how human responses also work. If you give them more things to feed, they will have take their time to get back. And they will say human like, they will do human like actions like, acha 2 minute do main aapko batata hu, something like that, right? Same with voice agents. In fact, they'll be faster than humans. It's just that they need to sound less robotic, which is now slowly happening. But the point is that the more you expect it to do, the if you ask it to just confirm COD, it is not going to have latency. But if you ask it to do 10 things at a time, it is going to have basic latency, which is expected, right? So you have to pick your lane on what is it that you are trying to do. So how do you decide as people who work in consumer brands what to give to voice and when, and what to keep human? So I think anything vernacular first audience, try voice, really good. Anything where you see typing is a friction because people don't type in any other language than English on keyboards, again voice is a great example. If you think there are use cases which are high volume repetitive, I'll give certain examples also right after this slide. Then you can try voice. If there is a structured outcome expected out of the call, customer is going to say yes, no, going to give their name, going to give their address, whatever, do that. If there is anything time sensitive like cart or if you got a call on your support, you were not able to use voice calls. Don't do when there are more emotional stakes. There is more judgment based thing like how much refund do you want to give, right? Legal and compliances, never let them take up, and high value relationships, right? So I'll give you an example. So it continues to get complicated. Notify as a concept should completely be given away to voice. Today, you've given it away to SMS or WhatsApp. For high value use cases, give notify to voice. This is generally a one-way conversation, not a two-way conversation either. We are just informing someone of something. Confirmation, this is the COD call that we saw. Again, very good use case to give to voice as long as it is making mathematical sense to you. Third is capture, which is this each gets increasingly complex. As you see, notify is one-way conversation. Confirm is you are taking a yes or no. Capture is you are taking proper responses for them, right? Here, the expectation is, this is a very good idea for, say, early check-ins. If you want to take information for a customer before they check into your in the hotel or a property, very good use case there, right? Fourth is resolve, which is again basic customer support queries. So I can for ascertain that this is a very good use case in tier 2, tier 3 plus audiences where people today ask or say people who are not English friendly probably ask their children at their home or younger people at their home to make these calls, which you can sort of use voice agent. So this is resolve. This is generally a two-way conversation. So this is slightly more complicated. Fifth is persuade. This is slightly again more complicated because you are pushing someone to get to do something, right? This is like a negotiation. This is like but the voice AI working as a sales personnel. Top four are fairly solved. Fifth is partly solved. Sixth is tough, right? So this is you're trying to drive behavior into someone, right? People will drive behavior if people won't drive behavior if AI asks them to drive behavior, right? So Rose called Dawai. It's sounds good, doesn't work sort of a use case. So while technically it is much more possible, but from a value or standpoint, it is not taken in the best spirit. So that's how that's the ladder. So you have to think through your company's metrics, see where you are notifying people, where you are taking inputs, where you're taking confirmations, taking data inputs, trying to resolve queries, and put voice AI to use there, right? And try to climb the ladder, right? If you're starting your journey with voice AI, don't start at persuade. Then it will not really work out. Start from notify and then look in, right? Certain straightforward cases, COD confirmation, lead and drop-off interviews, abandoned cart, checkout recovery, non-delivery rate, where is my order, all of these, right? So something that every brand here can possibly use. And then within internal ops, if you have offline stores, maybe you can do store audits through voice agents, or towards the end of the call, the voice agent can call the all store managers, understand how the day was, what did they do, what worked, what did not work, etc. This is purely feedback creation, right? And collection and payment reminders from vendors and all of that. So this is very, very useful in Indian markets, especially if you're dealing with enterprise or traditional vendors. So yeah, one thing that you can take out of this conversation is, if I were a D2C founder right now, one of the things I would definitely do is do user interviews at scale. So one of the things that we keep talking about in D2C is, can you talk to users, right? And for the longest time, the founders have been trying to do, which founders continue to do, and they say put up 100, try to do 100 calls a day, and connect with 10 of the users. But with voice agents, they will do it for you. Of course, the quality might not be as much as you would like. I mean, a founder talking versus a voice agent talking, but the volume that you can get through voice agents, right, is substantial. So even if you connect with 10 users a day, if voice agents connect with 10 users a day at a connection rate of say 10% and does 100 calls, you're still talking to potential 3650 customers who are telling you what's wrong with your product, what they are expecting, what giving you product feedback, and all of that, right? So that's next. This portfolio plays, if because we know from this portfolio there are, if you are in pet care, you can do teleconsulting, vet teleconsulting, triaging, right, appointment booking. Beauty and personal care, this is more around can you do replenishment nudges after 45 to 60 days for moisturizers, sunscreens, right? Food and beverages, if you are, especially if you are in general trade, then order booking from Kirana, we already saw a use case as a part of this conversation. Then there's travel and hospitality, really good industry where voice AI is already picking up a lot, and you'll continue to see more and more value delivery there. And home, garden, and lifestyle, here you can do post purchase care support. So is plant care support is how do you do plant care? Can you give people examples of this, right? So there's that. Why I see questions here. I'll take them towards the end of this chat. I hope that's okay. Just two slides more. Finally, a lot of bad rep any agent, any AI has gotten in the last 1 year is it doesn't understand us properly, right? And that's a you problem, not a agent problem. I think it's very important to give agents good grounding, good knowledge base, give it proper sources, ensure that they have access to the right information at any point in time. And especially if you're doing a voice agent, two things are very, very necessary, because you have to maintain customer experience. One is whatever was the objective of the call. So for example, if your objective was to confirm a COD order, and at any point in time the voice agent feels that the customer is not satisfied with the conversation or wants to know more, which it is not capable to, you should have a handover mechanism. They should be able to transfer that call to a human agent. If that is not happening, then your general CX will not come through, right? Second, so that's like an escalation path. And second is evaluation loops, which is, are you ensuring that your voice AI is doing its job? Like you're and say for example, if it is taking COD calls for 80%, why is it not taking for the remaining 20%? How do you give it more context? How do you continue to make it better, right? So often you will get to know that whenever you are going to do COD confirmation calls, sometimes the customer also says, but I also want to change my address in the order, right? So give it that capability, give it that skill, and once you create that loop and once you continue to give it more skills, you will see it do better. So yeah, design a fallback, ensure you record it, you transcribe it, and you continue to improve it. Escalate it with context. When you pass it to the human, give human the context of whatever conversation has happened, and then measure the customer experience against it. Not just calls getting completed, but the customer experiences. What do you do next? You can list your top 10 conversations. You can go to this. I will share this link with you. You can see which is a notify conversation, a confirm conversation, capture, resolve, persuade, and sustain, right? And then you pick, you figure out one that you want to try with. If you're just starting out the journey, start with the first one. pick a narrow pilot, and my sense is don't overcomplicate it from a tech standpoint. Just use existing tools available in the market, existing CRMs available in the market. Try it out with them. See if you want to don't worry about the cost when you are doing the POC. First try to see if from a customer experience it makes sense, and then get to, okay, now from a cost, would it make sense or not, right? The costs are going to continue to go down. We'll see more and more open source models also coming in. So I wouldn't be surprised if your cost, which is 3.5 rupees per minute today, goes below 2 rupees per minute in another year and a half, right? So this is an evolving space. And then measure what we discussed, right? That is it from a presentation standpoint. I'll take questions. Thank you so much for hearing through this and sitting through this, everyone. All right, should I start picking questions, Urmit, from the chat?
Yeah, I think we should do that.
Okay. Related to abundant cart AI calling, how will this attribute revenue to the AI calling? Will the given ROAS, will this give us like WhatsApp abundant cart messages? So it depends, right? So there are two ways to do this. One is you take, when the agent is calling the customer, you place the order on behalf of the customer and give them a link, right? If that's happening, the answer is yes. You will be able to do attribution because the agent is placing order on behalf of the customer, right? Second is you want the customer to go back to the website or the app and place the order. In that case, the answer is no. There will be smarter ways to do it. There are smarter ways to measure it. Things like after the agent call, what is the percentage of chances of those customers coming back and making the purchase versus the customers where they have not called. So you can run a basic A/B, but there is no direct attribution mechanism possible, right? So I hope that answers. There is no very good answer to that question. Any sample use case on abundant cart use case? Yeah, I think we can share a couple of audios. I think this is a solved problem. A lot of people are doing this already. So my suggestion is if you are using a CRM tool, I'm sure they will have voice agents embedded within them, and if they don't give it, you can check out a bunch of platforms if you're just starting out this journey. My sense is, don't, like I was saying, don't overcomplicate by onboarding a tech partner here. Just see existing tools and try this out. Bunch of cases. In case you don't get access to something, please reach out to me or Urmit, and I'm sure we can connect you with these SaaS platforms who do that, right? So Nakshi, what benefits can we get using this in a travel industry? So similar to what I said, right? We saw a couple of use cases in travel, like early check-ins, etc. And second is just maybe you are probably a better fit to answer this question because you understand your industry better. So use that framework, and that will get you to what you are asking, right? So I'll just share this screen again. I think this is a decent framework. See where you are notifying customers, see where you are taking confirmations from customers or capturing data or resolving queries, right? So in fact, I was recently stuck somewhere because I ended up booking a ticket without luggage provisions. So I was calling Etihad Airways, and all of my conversation was with a voice agent, right? It was fantastic. It worked out really well. Someone immediately picks up the call. They know all context about you, and they answer you very specifically. They told me very clearly that there is no way and you have to pay for it, but still they did it, and that was very helpful. If we meet again in 18 months, what will voice AI be doing routinely inside? Will voice AI remain primarily a cost-saving tool, or can it genuinely become...
Sorry, multiple questions from my side. I've jotted all down and posted it there. So yeah, the first question is, if we meet again in, say, 18 months from now, in terms of the workflows, how do you see the voice AI evolving, say, 18 months from now on? Will there be any workflows which will come as a surprise for the founders right now?
Yeah, so I think in 18 months, voice AI will... So right now, all of the use cases that we are talking about, right, are more on the ops side, more talking to customer to get abundant cart done and all of these. These are ops use cases. I think what we will be very pleasantly surprised with is how voice AI is going to impact customer experience a lot in next 18 months. So we will see a lot of discovery, for example, on a lot of e-commerce brand websites with large number of SKUs move to voice first, right? Early signs in Meesho. As more and more brands go deeper in India and want to target the India 2 and India 3, as they put it, we'll see CX change a lot because of voice AI. And I'm very excited to see how that plays out, right? Yeah. And which answers your second question, that it won't just be a cost saving tool, right? So I sincerely believe that it's better to give, say, and I'm sure all brand founders agree that you can give X percentage more money to something to drive a Y percentage better customer experience. So it's not about the money at all. You are effectively trying this technology out only if you are going to be able to give a more superior user experience, right? So with this J curve of improvement in quality of voice agents, we will soon reach a point where voice agents cost less and deliver better. And at that point, we will see from an adoption standpoint also very good numbers, right? So
any ideas on who's doing this maybe at scale in the consumer brands?
So I honestly, we are working with some of our partner brands on this, but I wouldn't say that we've already seen success here, right? So I think this will first be cracked by larger marketplaces. They, because the amount of money they are investing in getting technology right and customer experience right is much higher, before you will see productized SaaS offerings coming out through those CRM players, right? So my guess is a player like Misho would crack it the first. They've already started doing this, and I think they will continue to do it. And then once Flipkart, Misho, Amazon crack it and they start shaping user experience, voice agents will become basic expectations rather than something novel. And that's when you will see more adoption. So now certain brands will be ahead in the curve in terms of adoption, and they'll sort of obviously have better they'll be able to handle the entire curve better and the journey better.
Super. The second question is, how should you account for the cost or the payback period? So I think that's the question that keeps coming back to me. How should you account for the payback period in terms of upfront payment, right? Yeah, how should we think about the investments in the voice AI in general?
So, agree. So I think,
as well.
Yeah, agree. So I think from a ROI standpoint and a upfront investment standpoint, because this is initially a fairly commoditized play, you don't have to have a setup fee. You won't have a setup fee. Like the setup of voice agent is like any other agent. You will have to build a data warehouse, right, which gives it context. So I believe there is no setup fee involved here, right? Especially if you're trying out or if you are attempting to build use cases, I don't see it, right? And so from a ROI standpoint, platformized use cases will get ROI faster. Like COD confirmation will have a very good ROI very quickly. But if you want to do what we had done for the FMCG brand in the conversation, then you will have to have a very good data warehouse. You're not investing again in voice agents. Voice agents cost is commoditized. You are investing in ensuring that your data warehouse is in place so that your agents can get the right context they need to be able to kill voice use cases.
Understood. So you are saying there's no upfront cost involved. जो भी basic use cases है like COD हो गया, notify हो गया, right? All this you should do regardless of you should do, and there's a positive ROI from day one itself.
Correct.
Super. And for the folks, right? I think Pushpal did a session with us, AI sprint number 5. This was on data warehouse. Please feel free to check it out on DSGCP YouTube page.
Super. And the third is, how should you account for the cost? I think that's what we discussed.
Yeah.
How are you? What has your experience been using voice AI for lead qualification, especially since it is a higher risk use case? Yeah, I think lead qualification is tough in all fairness, right? So lead qualification is tough because there is a lot of variability in general. We were trying this for B2B cases, which are relatively simpler. And even there, we were running into cases where it was getting tough. And lead qualification, so think of it this way, that if there is something that you are outsourcing to normal human customer agents today from a B2C standpoint, then voice agent is a good proxy if the number of complexity cases are low. So in lead qualification in B2C, anyway the value that even human customer agents have been able to deliver has been relatively low. So voice agents, I don't see how they will be able to do a good job. I think this is a place where we should talk about in a year or so. I don't think the ecosystem is there yet where they'll be able to do lead qualification. Again, that's a point of view. We can still try. Do you have any AI related case studies on credit card sales or customer activation? I would like to understand how AI has been able to improve lead qualification, customer engagement, sales conversion, activation rates, and overall customer experience in credit card industry. I don't have a case study. We have not worked in the credit card industry, but I think a lot. So I just read about this. Bajaj Finance rolled out loans worth 1,093 crores last year through voice agents, right? So I'm sure there are people who are doing this. I can. There are a lot of articles about how Bajaj Finance has cracked this. I would suggest you do that. And the other thing is they are in a better place to crack it because they have crores of minutes of existing recordings that they can feed into to train their model, which we probably don't have. So tougher thing to close because the complexity of your question itself says it, right? You have to do engagement, you have to do activation, etc. So not very straightforward, not where you start your voice AI journey with for sure, but you can get to it as ecosystem evolves. One of the things is that as D2C ecosystem founders, we need to understand that we might not want to be the first people to innovate on tech. We are not a technology, and a lot of us, at least most of us, right? Consumer tech companies is a different conversation altogether. But D2C brands should not be investing into discovering tech unless you believe you are building something which is going to be a moat, right? If you're building if you're the first company that is building omni-channel, if you're Carrot Lane, that's a different conversation. If you're doing AI transformation, it's a different conversation. But investing in getting voice right before the industry is not going to get a lot of ROI. You are going to be innovating and you're paying for the innovation for the industry. So yeah. How are business rules and strict policy guardrails enforced? Great question, Lokesh. So I think this is a solved problem now. A lot of agents, right? So for example, Google has Gemini Enterprise Agentic Platform. They call it GEAP, right? So there is a service called Model Armor, which is basically like a validation gate कि जो भी ये मॉडल बोल रहा है या जो भी आउटपुट आ रहा है मॉडल से, is it as per company policy, is it as per government compliances, is it as per the expectation, right? So and there are evaluation frameworks also, so that once all of those things are done, you ensure you only push newer changes once certain use cases are solved for. So bunch of things done in this market to solve for this. And honestly, I don't know if you've been able to see this, but we are seeing less and less hallucinations now as an industry. Plus, if you go back to our conversation, right? So if you are in the initial part of the ladder where you are just notifying or just confirming or capturing, there is not a lot of room for hallucination either, because there are about 50 or 100 possible cases that you're dealing with instead of dealing with say unlimited cases. Yeah, we have many COD confirmation case studies. I'm happy to share this after this conversation. Same with NDR. Can we say that the ultimate goal is to build an intelligence layer that has complete context about the brand, covering both and use that intelligence to power experiences across multiple channels? Yeah, exactly. Right. So I agree. Basically, the ultimate goal is to get that. The step 0 is get your knowledge base right. Then step 2 is get your intelligence layer right, and then build whatever surfaces you want on top of it. That surface could be a web, a app, any agents you want, right? A voice agent, a WhatsApp chatbot, a normal chatbot, and everything. So once earlier it was just getting your data layer right, which is what they now fancily call grounding, right? Or system of records, right? Now it is get that right, and hence you will get intelligence, right? And hence you will get all your agents or all your UI, right? So yeah, which is why I think the conversation on data warehouse was very important. Now it is like a basic commodity. If you don't have a data warehouse in play, and if you don't, which a very active and very well created data warehouse in play, you are anyway far behind, going to be far behind competitors in another 6 months or so. Your voice agents won't work, for example. Everything is when you start for QA platforms for voice agents. I think there are a bunch of frameworks also that have come out for voice agents QA, so you can use those out of the box. But and generally, if you are starting with basic voice agents and using third-party tools, you just have to ensure that the third-party tool is using those frameworks to do the right QA. Once you reach to a certain scale where you now start thinking about building them, at that point, all of these conversations come in play, right? So at that point, you will probably go deeper into everything: your speech to text, your LLM, your text to speech, your which model you are using across the board, and then how are you doing QA? What are you using for telephony? Right, bunch of use cases open there as well.
Like, what are the frameworks like this? Could you just tell one for reference?
I don't have them handy, but I can share it across. I was just reading about
Sure.
this frameworks today. Yeah,
Sure. Thanks.
might have them handy. Just a moment. Yeah. Is there anything else?
No, I think that was the last question we had.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. I hope this was at least high level helpful.
Oh, very helpful, Pushpal. Thanks for spending time with us on this one. And again, I think to reiterate, right? I think one, we need data warehouse to be in place before you even activate the voice AI. Two, this will be very useful for the framework that you have given out, which is the filter, right? Figure out the filters, narrow the use cases, and then approach them via a third party or by the solution per se. Very helpful. Pushpal will be able to share the presentation as well, right? You're on mute. Seems like the electricity have gone off again. But thank you, folks. Thanks for joining us. We'll conclude the session. All right.
Yeah. It is a open Versa link, so happy to share the.
People, you were off for a few seconds for the last few seconds.
I was just saying it is an open Versa link. It's hosted on Versa. I'll share the link across for anyone to check it out.
Perfect. All right. Thank you, folks.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.